Greetings, my name is Daniella Smith, and I am an associate professor in the Department of Information Science in the College of Information at UNT. I absolutely love my research. In fact, I find my research to be creative because I am indeed a very creative person. My undergraduate degree is in political science and social science. I have a master's degree in library science, and my PhD is in information studies. If you put all that together, it spells creativity, but also some very serious research. Along the way, I've also been an K through 12 educator, a public librarian, school librarian, and research program coordinator in a research center. When I do research, I try to make sure that I tackle issues that are important for society. Right now, I look at social media a lot. In fact, I've written an entire book about social media and how it can be used for branding your career and for branding yourself so that you can develop your career. Another aspect of my research focuses on youth and young adults. I have actually combined my interest with social media and youth and young adults. For example, I've written about how social media is used for political activism. Another aspect of my research looks at STEM career development or STEM skill development in K through 12 educational settings. I look specifically at how school librarians can serve as mentors and help students to develop their skills. I was fortunate to receive grant funding for one of my projects. And for this project, I provided 2D and 3D printers for an elementary school and a high school. I also provided supplies to implement the project. And what I asked for school librarians to do in these schools was to introduce their students to a transmedia text. I was fortunate to have another researcher in the college to work with me, and her name is Dr. Tandra Tyler Wood. And if you're not aware of what transmedia means, it means a cross media. So basically, the book that I provided to the students had access to digital and print materials. If you want to envision transmedia materials, think about the Harry Potter franchise. Harry Potter had a movie, there were books, video games, websites, and more. So the book that I provided to the students had most of these aspects. For example, there were websites for the students to go to, databases that they could use. The book was in print. There were games that were incorporated and also hands-on projects with the 2D and 3D printers. We asked the students to envision themselves as engineers. And when they envisioned themselves as engineers, they were given problems to solve and different types of projects to complete. By the end, they were supposed to develop an irrigation system using the 3D printer. And I have to say, it was very interesting how they developed these irrigation systems. As a matter of fact, they were very creative in Some of them included Mario and the 3D printing aspects. So Mario formed the basis of the irrigation systems for them in some cases. They were free to explore, but the main point of the project was to have them to feel how it would be to solve a real world problem. For some of the research that has been published with the project, I focused on the elementary students, and there were 26 for the paper that I have written with my research partner. We used a quasi-experimental design, and we chose the quasi-experimental design because it is often difficult to do a pure experiment in the school system. Schools are very particular about who they let complete research with their students, and it is often hard to match up students based on characteristics to complete a purely experimental design. So what we did was we implemented a pre and post-test design. The students' pre-tests were compared to their post-tests. In the pre and post-test, they answered questions about their STEM career beliefs, and they answered questions related to STEM subjects. For example, they had a test with math and science questions on them. They were also asked questions about how their families support STEM skill development. Overall, for the entire group, the average academic achievement scores for the students increased. But I needed to know if these increases in the scores were statistically significant. A lot of people would just look at the averages and stop there. But if it is statistically significant, it means that the preparation that went into the project and the skills that the school librarians taught actually made an impact based on what was delivered for the project. We found that the male students had a statistically significant improvement in their academic achievement scores. We also found that an increase in the female students' belief that their family was interested in their science classes was correlated with a decrease in their academic achievement scores. I was very pleased that the project did work to some extent, but I was disappointed in the decrease or the significant decrease in the academic achievement scores of the female students. I wondered why this would occur. And then I determined that maybe it was because of the interactions between the students. When you look at research, you find that females are very social creatures. So their peers can be very influential on whether they choose a particular career. Society is often gender bound. And if a girl has a perception of something as being masculine, they're less likely to pursue it in most instances. And that's what happens with STEM careers. Part of the reason I wanted to do this project was to increase the number of underrepresented populations in STEM careers. Now, I will say that we had a lot of minority students involved in the project in terms of males and females. So I knew that there was some impact for underrepresented communities, i.e. minorities, and females for the project. But when I looked at the females, I believe that perhaps a different approach to teaching the subject matter would have been good for them, maybe so that they would not have felt less feminine while they were completing the projects. I'm not sure if that had something to do with it. Also, I noticed that all of the females sat together except for one young lady that sat with the males. So maybe mixing up the groups instead of letting them choose to sit in gender-based groups would be a good idea in the future. There are different types of teaching methods for males and females, believe it or not. So I think next time I might do some coaching when I implement this type of project again, so that there is a way to incorporate various teaching styles that are attractive to both males and female students. Overall, I was pleased with the project because in school librarianship, there is a lack of studies that use experimental or quasi-experimental designs. We all know that there has been a question about whether there should be libraries and how helpful they are, because you can just Google information. But as we have gone through this COVID virus, and as I think about the project that I completed, I know that school librarians have been very instrumental in helping other teachers get prepared for distance learning and by providing professional development. That is a part of a school librarian's job that is lesser known. In addition, school librarians have the flexibility to engage students in projects in a low-risk environment. So if students complete a project in the school library, they're less likely to think about failure and think more about creativity and enjoying the project. Another aspect of this project to consider is the fact that school librarians are able to work with all of the students in the school community, and they are able to engage students in a low-risk environment. This means that if students go into the school library, they are less likely to think about whether they are going to fail at completing a project rather than enjoying it. For STEM careers, we want students to enjoy the activities that they are completing. And by helping them to enjoy these activities, we are introducing them to new skills and helping them to learn about their possible self. We want them to think about what they will be able to do in the future without considering barriers. Basically, if the students have fun, they will also learn their science, technology, engineering, and mathematics skills. Then, school librarians can use formative and summative testing to find out if the students have actually learned skills. Just because something is fun, it does not mean that it is not meaningful. So I was pleased about this aspect. The project worked, maybe not like I thought it would, but I learned enough to teach future school librarians about some of the skills that they need to help engage our students. This project was near and dear to my heart because I had access to different materials when I was a child. I didn't really suffer from information poverty. Information poverty is real. Not having the skills to access information and not being introduced to STEM skills in particular can be detrimental to communities. We want there to be role models within communities to help students to seek careers that will improve the quality of their lives. School libraries, public libraries, and academic libraries often have access to materials that students cannot get at home. And this is why I will continue to endeavor to do projects to teach school and public librarians how to help students develop STEM skills. Another positive aspect of this project was the fact that I got to work with my own students. So the librarians that helped me to implement this project were graduates of UNT. I reached out to them when I knew that I would have funding for the project, and I felt very comfortable working with them. And since then, they have published with me, and they are now PhD students. So I still get to work with them, and I hope that I'm molding them into researchers that will impact the future of youth and society. So I hope that you will enjoy your time at UNT and that you will get to know your professors and develop lifelong relationships with them. I would like to welcome you, and I also want to encourage you to reach out to professors even if they are not in your degree area. We are a community of scholars, and we want to help you, and we want you to be successful. Welcome to UNT.